We are joined now by the co-founders of the Daily Wire. We've got Jeremy Boring with us and Ben Shapiro. They're going to talk to us about Lady Ballers.
I'm in this movie, and Jeremy asked a really good question at the premiere on Wednesday night. Jeremy, you pointed out that basically great comedy had been killed by sort of this left-wing ideology, and the reason you made Lady Ballers was because there was a challenge that on some level there had to be new comedy, but it had to come from the right as opposed to the left.
Yeah, I think that it was Joe Rogan who said a little over 14 months ago that if there was going to be another great comedy, it would have to come from someone like the Daily Wire. As soon as the left achieved primacy and hegemony in terms of their politics and cultural influence, they decided that comedy was no longer going to be allowed because, of course, the thing that you want to make fun of now is them, and they're just not going to stand for it.
Hey, Ben, thanks for being here with us. How do you pull a project like this together? You know, we had your colleague Matt Walsh on for the What is a Woman documentary, which we thought was great. You know, that one, though, felt like, yeah, it's within the kind of editorial line that I would expect from Matt and other folks at Daily Wire. But to write something scripted like this, how did you come together with this? Who'd you bring into it? And just, I want to know about the production process a little bit.
Well, you definitely need to ask Jeremy about that, because my main job in this was to say yes to the project, and that was pretty much it. Then I showed up for a scene with somebody else who's on the line.
So you have acting chops like clay. I'll pass this one back to Jeremy then. Go ahead.
You know, I think that Ben and I, from the very beginning, long before we even founded the Daily Wire, we understood that it's not enough to critique culture. If we want long-term success, we have to create culture. We grew up both under the sort of tutelage of Andrew Breitbart. When I say grow up, I mean politically grew up under the tutelage of Andrew Breitbart, who understood the power of culture, the fact that politics only operates in a window created by culture. And so this was always on our mind, and we've surrounded ourselves over time with people who had what we think are skills that would be really useful in this regard. Dallas Saunier, our producing partner over at Bonfire Legend, being one of them, but also our talent. You know, I thought we were going to get big actors to be in this from the beginning. We got turned down by just about every actor we went out to, and I'm glad, because it really became kind of a family project. Every Daily Wire host is represented on screen, and you get to see a side of them that you haven't seen before, and the really, I think, high level of talent that these guys have. Just as one example, our sports hosts, Jake Crane, Blaine Crane, and David Cohn, play three of the truly lead roles in the film, and they are sensationally funny. And these guys are as good in this film as any comic actor in Hollywood would have been if this had been produced by a far more established production entity than we are. And I'm excited to have gotten to do that with them, and I think the audience will be excited to see that side of them.
I told everybody that I have a small cameo. It's alongside of Ben Shapiro, who's with us right now. Ben Shapiro, Jeremy Boring. I found the movie, and I went to go watch it on Wednesday. I'm going to show it to my 13-year-old, my 15-year-old. I think there are a lot of kids that will enjoy it as well. And I know you have really young kids, Ben. But what I found actually amazing was it was very funny and very well done and filled with satire and ridicule of the current current environment we find ourselves in. But also it's very heartwarming at the end. Did that surprise you when you watched it based on what you knew and thought that it would look like?
It definitely did. I mean, first, let me just say my kids are 9, 7, 3, and 6 months. None of them will be watching this film. It's totally inappropriate for them. I would recommend that unless your kids are above the age of like 15, 16, I really don't recommend that you have like younger kids watch it. It's R-rated. I mean, there's some jokes in there that are definitely on the risque side. But you know, that's just, again, because we're not Disney. We're not interested in cultivating our kids. But the one thing that is certainly true is that the element of the film that is the truest of all is the heart of the film. There's an enormous amount of heart in this film. There's an enormous amount of morality in this film. And some of the speeches that are made over the course of the film take on topics that no other studio would take on. And we're not just talking about the trans issue. We're talking about things like divorce. I mean, there's a speech, I played a clip on my show today. There's a speech that's given by one of the characters where she goes through why divorce absolutely destroys children. That is something that not only will Hollywood never produce, Hollywood provides precisely the opposite image. I mean, they've been pushing divorce as a solution to marriage since, you know, the 1960s at a minimum. And so the fact that we produce something like that, I think that we're proud of that.
No doubt. And what I would say is, by the way, you can check it out at dailywire.com. It's going to debut tonight. Jeremy, what are you most proud of about this movie now that it's complete, now that you've debuted it Wednesday night in Nashville? Great crowd came out to watch it. Now that you got a little bit of time for reflection, what is the most satisfying aspect of having made this film to you?
Yeah. Well, as Coach Rob might say, I'm proud of the team. Really, everybody stepped up and punched way above their weight class to make this happen. You know, our Daily Wire staff was deeply involved in it. Many of them are our Daily Wire hosts are just tremendous in it. My kid brother wrote all the music for it, and I know that sets a low expectation, but I think the music is truly one of the best aspects of the film.
Yeah, let me cut you off there for a sec, because my wife went to the movie with me, and halfway through it, she said, this soundtrack is incredible. It's all original. She said a lot of times you can tell in movies when it's not done at a high level because of the music. She was blown away by how good that was, even in particular. It had nothing to do with the on-screen acting or story. You deserve a lot of credit for that, your brother.
Yeah, he's a monster talent, and he came through in a major way. It's these great, like, anthem-y 80s rock montage sports tunes. They're just killer. So I'm proud of the effort, and I'm proud of the accomplishment. And, you brought up the heart. I will say this was not my first time to see the movie. Obviously, I've seen it, dozens and dozens and dozens of times throughout the process of editing it and coloring it and sound designing it and all the mix and everything that you do. It also wasn't my first time to see it with an audience. I saw it with a small audience in Budapest not long ago. But what really struck me watching it with the crowd on Wednesday night is how well the heartfelt scenes play. And when we were there on set shooting the ending, I won't give too much away, it's so full of life and heart. We were all just laughing, almost in tears, because we had 1,000 extras up in the stands in this big sports arena. And the thing that you see at the end of the movie was actually happening right in front of us. We were just capturing it with cameras as it occurred. And I think it's a truly beautiful moment. And that's what I love about the movie. I think that it does hold up. I think it's very funny. I think it does a great job of handling these issues that it was sort of tailor-made to handle. But I also just think it's a good story and a good film, and people will walk away really satisfied with it.
Lady Ballers is the movie, guys. DailyWire.com. Go check it out. Ben, I had to ask you this. To what degree do you think you can gauge the success of this film by how much it drives the left absolutely insane, and that your movie is actually the death of the Republic and the beginning of fascism in their eyes?
I mean, we always gauge ourselves by that standard. I mean, whatever we can do to tweak people, apparently we will do. I think that the left is going to feel good and tweaked by this thing, and you're going to see that in the response. I mean, I think it's going to manifest in some cleverer ways. I think you're going to see them hit us with bad reviews in the same way that they've tried to hit our other movies with bad reviews. I think you're going to see them try to ignore it. That's another tactic that they've used in the past. But the reality is that I think that they're going to be wildly ticked this was ever made, and they should be.
Where can people go to see it?
So they should go to dailywire.com/subscribe. You do have to be a subscriber in order to see the film tonight. 8 p.m. Eastern is when it airs.
You guys are working on a monster, my understanding is, episodic story right now. That's why you referenced the fact that you've been in Europe. What is that story, and when will it be out, and what story are you attempting to tell there?
Yeah. We have a bunch of new things that'll be coming out. In fact, tonight, in front of Lady Ballers, we're going to premiere the first teaser trailer for our first scripted animated comedy with Adam Sandler. It's his great character, Bertram. And this show brings it to life with a cast of characters that includes Roseanne Barr and Patrick Warburton and many other great actors. And then, midway through the year next year, we'll release our first sort of fantasy epic called The Pendragon Cycle, based on the novels by the same name by Stephen Lawhead. I read these novels when I was a teenager. They were incredibly instrumental in forming my worldview, both politically and in terms of my faith. And it's always been a dream of mine to bring them to life on screen. I know firsthand the power that the story can have on helping to shape young minds, and I want other people to be able to experience that. I've been in Europe more of this year than I have in America, and it's been the hardest thing I've ever endeavored to do, but I'm really proud of the work that we've done. And I, in fact, head back in 2 hours. I'll be back in Budapest when Lady Ballers goes live tonight, which is probably good. I won't be able to check in moment by moment and see how we're doing. I'll just be somewhere over the Atlantic sleeping.
For years, we've been talking about, just in the conservative movement more generally, hey, we have to actually make our own culture. We can't just sit around and argue about the tax rate and constitutional law. And congrats to you guys for doing another film, and we look forward to seeing more. And we hope people will check out Lady Ballers. Thanks for making the time for us today.